Hello, what is up, people? It is I, Nelvin, again. So today is gonna be a less edited and more lazy and less scripted video where we're gonna, cover a creepypasta. This creepypasta right here is called Scooby Doo Audio and is based around a Nintendo 64 game. So, yeah, we're just gonna get on into it. And sorry if I stutter a lot, I actually have a stutter. So, I do try my best to edit it out, but even then, sometimes it's just impossible to because of the way I record my audio. So, yeah, I'm sorry if that's a huge bothersome. Also, keep in mind that this pasta was originally in Spanish and I had to translate it. So, if the grammar is a bit off, I don't know if it's on the writer or just like Google Translate being weird again. But let's actually just get into this. A while back, I bought an old laptop of mine back to life. It was crappy, but I used it for a long time, and using it again brought me quite a lot of nostalgia. I played a lot of games there, typical games that someone with a crappy PC would play, like old games and mostly emulators. Once I turned my laptop on, the first thing I did was check the save games from the emulators. I was already halfway through Super Mario 64 in the crash game I got stuck on, a really hard part, and apparently I had already completed Paper Mario, but there was one game I didn't remember. It was Scooby Doo Classic Creep Capers. Huh? Scooby Doo? Sounded like something interesting to play tonight, especially considering how bad the franchise was. Wow, this dude hates Scooby Doo. That's a very hot take. Seeing something from when it was good will be great. I actually noticed the game was Scooby Dooby Doo Classic Creep Capers from the title screen in game, but the file was simply called Scooby Doo. The game was running normally. I started to remember the game a little bit, but I have the feeling that I stopped playing it pretty much out of the blue. I don't remember why. I think it was a bug in the ROM or something. And then there I was, playing as Shaggy. Apparently a car caught fire or something like that. But the game now showed us the burning car while Scooby and Shaggy looked at it. I don't know why, but at that part, the audio disappeared. I assumed at the moment that it was an emulator error or something. I decided to record when something strange happened, and that is when the audio came back. But it didn't sound right. It how do I just say it? It sounded like when something is going slow. Why? I know this laptop is bad, but not so much that it would become slow with a simple emulator. So I approached the cart once more. There was still an item to pick up. I assumed that way I would be able to advance in the game, but the item was wrong too, apparently. I don't know. I just decided to continue. Probably a ROM or an emulator error. Although it's rare that it only happens in games, but that could have been the only explanation, right? And then I found another item. Apparently, this one wasn't as buggy. It was to put out the car fire, and it worked. I put it out after the game allowed me to go to another place. And then things just went from buggy to completely weird. The image went black and Shaggy appeared saying something about the car. Probably this was a transition to the next place in the game to explore, but that just didn't happen. He just stood there, paralyzed, complete silence. But it wasn't silence. If you can distinguish that soft sound of silence in the audios and videos, right? Well, that's what you could hear. Like there was an audio in that part that was simply silent. And the background noise became louder and louder. The sound was very obvious, but what was that sound? I heard something at the time, but I didn't have time to think about it. The game just went off. I was too confused. My confusion increased. When I reviewed the video, I noticed something in the sound of the paralyzed part. It was a voice! Or so it seems. I don't know. Just draw your own conclusions. Research on this, but there was just nothing about what happened to me that hasn't happened to me before. I remember everything well now. The ROM had a bug and it would crash, but not at the part where the game crashes now. The voice was female, right? I quite I can't quite make out what she's saying, but it seems like one of the words she's saying is fear. Or so I think. The ROM might be modded, but then why did it only happen that one time? Yeah, seriously. Once I played the game again, what I experienced didn't happen again. I remember that I decided to download the ROM from the same random ROM site. This can't be the case. It was a mystery that I couldn't solve. Probably a weird Easter egg. I don't think so. I mean, come on, it's a Nintendo 64 game. I analyzed what happened for a while. The situation was strangely familiar. Then I remembered something, and things came together. Why exactly that place and that voice? It's hard for me to believe something like this is happening to me, but I can't deny it. I was carrying the laptop that day. It's something very personal that I don't want to mention, but yes, this was a real experience. And through this, I still don't believe who that voice is, who I think it is. Well, that was an interesting read, that's for sure. I mean, it's a decent story, but the fucking punchline of the story, well, the horror punchline of the story, well, it could have been expanded on better. From what I've seen, this dude was part of some accident, maybe a murder. The story leaves it too vague, is what I'm trying to say. Clearly, this dude was part of something or something, and it came back to haunt him, and they should have expanded on that part. But no, in the end, it's left vague. And I get that he wanted to make it up to our interpretation, but the author also has to give us something to base our interpretations off of. This is just too vague. It could mean anything. Like, was he part of an actual mystery game that got their car burned down? Probably, yeah. But like, there's a lot of to this story that could have been expanded on better. Like, who was that voice? What is their main character's relationship with them? And so much more that could have been expanded. But instead, it's just left vague. And I gotta wonder, why? Why could it? All I'm trying to say is that this story had potential. I mean, the beginning portions of it is actually good, and there's actual screenshots too with the story, as you can see here, as I provided, and also an audio. So, yeah, the story had good build up, and it had actual screenshots to back it up. But the actual horror punchline, like the main ending of the story, is what ruins it for me. It could have had so much potential. We could have learned something about the main character. Or at the very least, if you aren't going to directly tell us, leave us clues on what it is. The game alone isn't enough to tell us that the main character was part of XYZ. All we know is that a car burned down and there was a spooky voice that belongs to someone important to the main character. So, yeah. So, quick editor's note here. Um, Turns out while I was finishing editing this video, another YouTuber who happens to be an acquaintance of mine on YouTube by the name of Brody the Broadster, if I'm pronouncing it right, also posted a video on this creepypasta, narrating and reviewing it as well. So, like, I just want to say that I wasn't ripping him off, this was a coincidence. And I also want you to check out his video on this creepypasta, just in case you don't like my habit of fucking improvising and trying to, overact while reading the pasta. He reads the pasta in its whole entirety without my improvising, and he actually reads it as it is. Well, as as well as fucking Google Translate can fucking portray it.